Hi, Eagles fans. Welcome to this week's Eagles video. Um, this is going to be a weird week. I really think this is a game the Birds could win. However, with the injuries to the left, to the right tackle side, just read today, Fred Johnson's out, Lane's out. Um, you know, it's it's going to be rough. I bet they line up Max Crosby on that side and come real hard. Um, I imagine Toss going to probably start. So a lot of pressure on the Eagles' offensive line this week. Um, However, the run game looked improved last week, even in loss. Game we should not have lost to the Chargers. Um, but I think that this is a winnable game. It should be a winnable game. But who knows how the Eagle offense has been playing lately? Um, Genty ran a little bit better last week for the Raiders, so mm, defense has got to step up. Defense, I'm not too worried about that. I really think the defense is going to keep the Raiders well under 20 points. Most playoff caliber teams have blown out the Raiders. So I look forward to that being the Eagles' MO this week. I look for this to be a high scoring game from the Birds offense. I think this could be a team where the offense gets back on track. Hurts looked a lot better under center. We all know he's not going to have 5 turnovers again. We also know that, he's not going to be benched. That was one of my thoughts with the 5 turnovers. Um, but then, cooler heads prevailed, and my cooler head prevailed and was like, no, they're not going to start McKee. Hurts is the starter. They're paying him the big bucks. He's going to go out, and I'm sure that he wants to make amends for last week as well. Um, the one was a fluke. You know, getting the turnover and then fumbling it right back. Yeah, I see that as a fluke. Um, so I don't think he's going to have 5 turnovers this week. I look for him to play much better. I look for the offense to play much better. And like I said, the Raiders are a team where the offense can get better. I am concerned about the offensive line play. I'm concerned about all the injuries up front. That kind of haunted this team after the Super Bowl 52 win. The O line got banged up pretty bad and they barely made the playoffs. I can see that being something else that happens here. Um, but, Dallas has closed the gap. It's 2 games between the two of them. Um, so Dallas could sneak in there. Maybe wanting to win the division again will be what motivates this team to succeed. I think the key is for Patullo to keep Hurts under center, let everything start with the running game, and go from there. Defensively, I saw where Jalen Carter's probably out this week. Jordan Davis has stepped it up. Mo has stepped it up. I really think the defense is going to come around and play better. Not sure what's going on with Campbell. I haven't read a lot, being out here in the desert. Um, but Jahad Campbell, I think maybe his year is next year. I really do. I think Vic's kind of seeing where he goes, seeing who's going to get paid, and go from there. But this is going to be an exciting week. It should be a week to get back on track. So to break this down by position, I think, the Eagles offense is much better than the Raiders offense. Eagles have a much better quarterback. They have a much better running game. Um, I think, maybe running Barkley more this down the stretch is going to has saved him from being banged up. And maybe that's just as important, keeping him healthy for the playoffs. Offensive line, Eagles' offensive line is so much better, even in its current state of all the injuries, even the fact that they're struggling a little bit. I can't see the Raider defense stopping them. I really look for AJ Brown and Devonta Smith to have a big week. Um, I look for Goddard to have a decent game. I would like to see the Eagles use Goddard a little bit more. I think that that would help free up Smith and Brown, but who knows how that's going to go, how they see that. Defensively, like I said, Eagles defense, the only person that the Raiders truly have is, Max Crosby. I don't see him being able to do much unless he is over constantly on that Eagle right side, the defensive left side. And then I really think he might feast on whoever's on tackle on that side. So I think it's important that when the Eagles do pass, they roll out Hurts away from Crosby, or they run some trap plays or run plays right at him. I mean, that used to be the way you stop, you beat up on the purple people eaters back in the 70s. Everybody said you run right at him. That slowed down Alan Page's speed and Jim Marshall's speed. So I think that's one avenue the Eagles could pursue to beat up Max Crosby. Linebacker wise, Eagles by far, um, Bond and Dean have, they're totally above the class of anything the Raiders have. Defensive back wise, though, I think the Raiders and Eagles are about even there outside of DeJean and Q. But we'll have to be seen. It looks, I had not had any concerns about Reed. Um, yeah, I really think Reed Blankenship needs to step it up. Some of the passes where the Eagles have given up deep plays, given up some big plays, has been on him. He's not there, he's not as fast. I think teams have figured out that, they can pretty much throw on him if they can get him in a situation where he's covering man on man or trying to cover a deep zone. And if their quarterback gets time, that's going to come back and haunt the birds. So I really think that Reed Blankenship needs to step up his game. He's not playing at the same level where he's played the last couple of years. Um, so that's the Eagles' biggest weakness right now, I think, is safety. Um, and maybe they're going to have to eventually move Cooper DeJean out the corner or let him play a deep safety position. I'm not sure. But Vic knows what he's doing. I kind of trust the defense. I still don't trust the offense after last week, but I think this is a week that we can do it. We can pull off a big victory over the Raiders, get the offense healthy, get them playing well, and move on from there. We got some should be lighter competition, but who knows? Playing Washington twice, divisional games are always a little bit weird. Even when you're a much better team, and Eagles getting a break with Jaden Daniels being out for the rest of the season with his elbow injury. Washington's not going to risk bringing him back at any point in time. So even if we lose the game to Buffalo, that could be a Super Bowl preview. Doubt it, but that could be a Super Bowl preview. Um, I really don't think that that's going to be an issue. I think, lose that game, beat Washington twice, beat the Raiders, and let's wrap up this division and, show everybody that we belong in the playoffs again. So that's all I got for this week. Disappointing loss to the Chargers, of course, but that's life right now. That's in the past. Let's keep moving forward and get this team in the playoffs. Fly, Eagles, fly, go Birds.